What's going on, guys? We got opening day games starting in just a little bit. I'm super excited. Really busy March. Fantasy baseball, 3 drafts. Just had my last one this week. So my picks to click for at least the first part of 2023 is going to start with Freddie Freeman. 33 years old, 7.1 WAR last year, and 50.4 WAR in his career. We're looking at Fangraphs here. Now, this is a guy that, like we saw like Paul Goldschmidt, another first baseman in the National League. He got his Hall of Fame related bump last year. It helped that he had an MVP season, an incredible season. But it wasn't until like the beginning of last year where people started to realize like this guy is probably a Hall of Famer and we should be pricing him accordingly, right? Freddie Freeman, he starts out at a higher level because I think he's just more known and more well-liked by fans. Being on the Braves helps. Being on a major market team now with the Dodgers probably helps, although that was a little bit weird of a transition. I just think that Freeman's skills are aging very well. In most instances, we want a player to be multifaceted. But when they're 33 years old, it helps that Freddie Freeman is mostly contributing with his bat, with the power, with the batting average, because those skills are less likely to decline and kind of fall off a cliff, like maybe skills of more athletic players like a Javi Baez. So, you look at what he accomplished last year, expected WOBA, 99th percentile, average exit velocity, 88th percentile, max exit velocity, 84th percentile. And these were third or tied for third best in his career. So I just don't see him falling off a cliff. If he puts up another 7-ish WAR season, then all of a sudden he's at 57 WAR at age 34, then we're like, whoa, yeah, he's on his way, right? So I think he could see a bump. Looking at his prices versus Mookie Betts, he probably sells for about 60%. If you look at like their Bowman Crow autograph stuff, equivalent cards, I don't know if that's exactly right, but I could see that gap in the short term. Now, let me preface this. In the short term, shrinking between their prices, because in the hobby, it's all about like, what have you done for me lately? Versus like, okay, long term, who's going to be more memorable, which career? And people will then recognize Mookie Betts and his peak levels and what he accomplished was probably a bit more impressive than Freddie Freeman once you're to look back at their sealed resumes once both of their careers are over. So the hobby doesn't notoriously love first baseman, but I still like that bet. The cards I like, 2009 Bowman Chrome Auto, same design as Mike Trout's. Tough to find in PSA holders. Back then, everybody was submitting those cards to BGS. A lot of people got 9.5s. Why would you take the chance and crack those out and send them to PSA? But yeah, I like his, the base, the refractor, the blue. The blue you don't see a whole lot, but that's a cool card. Series 1, 2011 Topps. The parallels there, I just picked up a Cognac Diamond, full disclosure. But his other parallels I like as well. Jose Altuve, similar mold to Freddie Freeman with regards to like age and current WAR. And I would have actually talked about him in this video too. Now, he is an Astro and a lot of people don't like him for that, but no need to talk about him anymore because his thumb was destroyed by Daniel Bard. Pick number 2 is going to be Adley Rutschman. He's sort of treated like a post-hype player, but unlike other post-hype types like Bobby Witt Jr. or Spencer Torkelson that disappointed, Adley Rutschman had a pretty good season. 5.3 Fangraphs WAR in just 470 plate appearances. And that number, that plate appearances, is probably going to increase this year because he's going to be up for the entire year. Now, catchers don't usually get more than like 550 plate appearances, but Adley is important enough to the team where he DH'd last year 23 times. So I'd expect those numbers to increase, his plate appearances, total level of production, which is great because accumulating stats helps with counting stats. It helps with cumulative advanced stats like WAR. You have to be a little careful with Adley Rutschman because it takes a while for like former number 1 overall picks for all that helium to kind of come out and for their prices to truly reflect current performance levels. And we've seen some of that with Adley so far, but I think there's a little bit more to go, especially with his 2019 Bowman Chrome autograph stuff, where maybe it's held by more capitalized folks that just don't want to take a loss, or it's held by a more concentrated group of individuals that are able to kind of hold those and weather the storm a little bit more. We saw it in 2019 and 2020 with Vlad. couple disappointing years, and you're seeing all these bargains on his rookie card stuff, but his Bowman Chrome autograph stuff's never coming up for auction. Why is that? Stays artificially elevated for a bit longer, and we're seeing that right now with Torkelson. Finally, auctions are coming with his 2020 Bowman Draft first autos. All right, so back to Adley. 13% walk rate, 18% K rate. That's great. That's what we want to see. A lot of doubles, a lot of extra base hits. Now, home runs, not very impressive on the surface, but he plays in a tough ballpark now. Camden Yards is now like considered, based on something I looked at, 27th best for home runs. 27th best. So like one of the worst ballparks for home runs. But it's okay, because if you care about WAR adjusts for ballparks. And he's likely to improve, guys. I mean, he hasn't been in the league for that long. He's likely to only get better. Another thing in his favor is the WAR calculation loves catchers. Catchers get the highest positional adjustments, the highest there is, more than shortstops, more than center fielders. So at the end of the day, the hobby hates catchers. The hobby hates guys that debut at 24 or 25. Let's get that out of the way. You know, he's too old. He's never going to get enough WAR. But WAR loves catchers, and the Hall of Fame is likes catchers. And at some point, the transcendent type catchers like Yadier Molina, they do get hobby love in the long term. Last point, Baltimore is an ascending market. So I did some ranked like the markets in 2021 with regards to like strength for baseball, and Baltimore finished outside the top 20. But, you know, we saw it with San Diego a few years back, 5 to 6 years ago. These are transitory. These rankings could adjust. Some of the variables that affect market, in my opinion, have to do with the team's commitment to win and willingness to win, the team's resources, the team's likelihood to maybe make it to the playoffs and make it to the World Series, which for Baltimore, slowly but surely increasing. So Baltimore had what a lot of people would have considered a top market probably in the late 90s. And I don't know if the Nationals have stolen all their fans yet. So Baltimore likely to become maybe a top 10 to 15 market again at some point, in my opinion. So just be cautious with his stuff. Certain cards are inflated. Buy it now is ridiculous in a lot of his 2019 Bowman Chrome Auto stuff. So maybe the place to look is going to be 2023, some of his rookie parallels. Next up, Spencer Strider. The hobby hates pitchers, but you know what? If short-term flippers aren't buying the cars that I'm interested in, you know, part of that kind of sucks because I have one less buyer and the card's maybe going to be less liquid because of that. But you're also not artificially increasing prices beyond like performance or what it should actually be worth. It's kind of hard to explain, but 2020, 2021, a lot of influencers are saying like, oh, buy Silver Prism rookies of Luka, buy Hoptic Allos. Even though they're not numbered, you know, they're super sought after, they're nice looking, everybody wants them, it's an investable card. But you have all these short-term people that are invested in those cards. And from a long-term holder of that, if you're one of the long-term holders, you kind of get screwed when all the short-term folks exit, right? So I tend to want to stay away from where there's a lot of those like short-term folks that are kind of all hoarding the same cards. I don't know. That's just me. So 24 years old, slightly more than Hunter Green from like a cost perspective with his cards. But Spencer Strider already broke out. Hunter Green had he strung together like 6 to 7 good starts against bad teams in like August and September when some teams weren't even really competing anymore. Spencer Strider had one of the most impressive rookie seasons ever for a pitcher. We're talking 202 strikeouts in 131 innings. You look at the shift restrictions this year. Who's that going to hurt? It's going to hurt pitchers that induce contact. Spencer Strider, because he strikes out so many damn people, it's going to have less of an effect on him. And so another knock on him is he only has 2 pitches. He throws the changeup, his number 3 pitch, less than 5% of the time. But maybe that doesn't matter if your 2 pitches are as good as they are, right? Maybe that's a possibility. His 4-seamer is rated a top 5 fastball in the major leagues, 155-ish stuff plus. That's an Eno Saris metric, which is now on Fangraphs. His 4-seamer has 18 inches of vertical break, which is like way up there with regards to where it stands versus the rest of the league, and it averages 98 miles per hour. Second pitch is a wipeout slider. That slider is top 3 to 5 in baseball. So, 2 pitches, It didn't hurt his ability to go deep in games last year, but will hitters be able to adjust this year? I guess we will see. And will Strider be able to develop a third or fourth pitch? Who knows? The innings could be somewhat limited this year. So again, 131 innings last year. Teams don't like to bump their guys more than 20, 30%. Also, you have to factor in the playoffs. How many innings is he gonna get? Like, what's that new strikeout milestone? Is he not going to be able to get to 230, 240, 250 because he's only going to go 175, something like that? Who knows? Targets for me, Bowman Chrome autograph stuff. So I've got his True Blue at PSA right now, full disclosure. With rookies, he didn't really have a whole lot of stuff. So no non-auto in Topps Chrome, which is kind of weird. No parallels in Heritage based on my eBay search, which is, again, kind of weird. I'd go for the original color autos from Topps Chrome. So that would be and this is the on-card auto stuff. So gold, orange, red, blue, and not the shimmery or wave stuff. And maybe that's a place to look. Maybe Topps Chrome Sapphire Parallels is a place to look. But certainly not an explosion of rookies, which is nice to see. Next player is going to be Corbin Carroll, 22 years old. So if we're to start with the negatives, let's talk about questionable raw and game power. This is a guy that had an ISO well above 200, just about in every level in the minor leagues. But some of that might have been helped by his speed, turning singles into doubles, turning doubles into triples. That could have inflated that for sure. And also playing in I believe, hitter-friendly PCL. So for him, I think he had an recorded exit velocity in the spring, which was 109.7 or 110.7, which is decent, but it's not exactly what you want to see for a guy that would hit 25 plus home runs. So can he tap into that? I think he's likely to tap into at least some of that based on his average exit velocity that he showed in the spring. So we'll see. But in my opinion, I think we falsely think as hobbyists, you need the power. You need to have at least 40 home runs. There's a lot of examples of guys that can get to 40, that can get to 50 home runs, but they don't do a whole lot of other things well. Guys that can hit 35, but that don't do a whole lot of other things well. You look at Juan Soto, he's only hit 30 home runs in his career in 5 seasons? Okay, you can't really count 2020, but in 4.5 seasons, he's only hit over 30 home runs once, and he's still able to post 6 to 7 WARs. And this is a guy that doesn't do anything defensively, really, with the WAR calculation, right? It doesn't like him usually. If anything, he's like a zero or a neutral there. So Corbin Carroll, above average defender, well above average speed, 100 percentile speed, 30.7 feet per second, I believe. Excellent plate decisions like Soto with a high walk rate. It's not going to have a 450 OBP like Soto. But if Carroll gets to 17 to 21 home runs this year, can he still post a 6 to 7 WAR? In my opinion, yes. I mean, this is a guy with a 70 grade hit tool, only 55 realized at this point. Another negative, other than the power, would be the strikeout rate. Last year, small stint in September, but I think his K rate was around 27%. In the minors, at high levels, it was around 22.9 to 24.5. I'd like to see that below 25. I think the major league average is about 24. So the key for him, putting the ball in play, using his wheels, right, to maximize those hits, high BABIP, and he's going to have a higher OBP because of his walk rate. So just a really fun player. I think where you can also get caught up with Corbin Carroll right now and talking yourself out of him is if you start to compare him to Trey Turner and Trey Turner, 24 to 27 home run power, and he's got most of his other skills except for the OBP, and the hobby doesn't care about him. But Turner got hurt. He missed some of his peak. I think he started a bit later than Carroll as well, and he's jumped around to a bunch of different teams. There's a lot of factors that are hurting Turner outside of just those similar skills as Carroll. But we'll see. I'd like to try to not compare Carroll to anyone. I think he can have a great season. Just an exciting player to watch. And he had a great spring, which means nothing, by the way. I put a futures bet on Carroll to lead the majors in steals, by the way. And I hold a lot of his Bowman Chrome autograph stuff. I think a refractor autograph and a PSA 10 for under 900 right now would be a pretty good buy. I paid more for most of mine. And this is a guy that has more upside in the short term because of just sheer quantity of his investable stuff, because he wasn't in Series 1. like a Gunnar Henderson or an Adley Rutschman. So for the next, I don't know, few months till about June when Series 2 comes out and he doesn't have presumably any like major rookie card releases, the Bowman stuff will make up basically all of his investable cards, and that could put upward pressure on prices and could increase his ceiling for the next few months with regards to investability of his cards. That's it, guys. Let me know what you think about my picks. Do you have any picks for this year? Do we have anything in common? If not, poke holes in my analysis and also mention some of your own favorites. Baseball's here, guys. I'm excited. Take care. Philmington out.